Chapter 6: The Authority of Silence. The loudest sound in business. Silence is the loudest sound in the business world. For most professionals, silence is terrifying. It feels like a vacuum. It feels like failure. When we are pitching a client and we stop talking and they don't immediately applaud or agree, panic sets in. Our brain screams, they hate it, they are bored, say something, save the moment. So we start talking, we fill the void, we add a discount, we qualify our statement, we ramble. We can obviously be flexible on that price. If that timeline doesn't work, we can adjust. Just to clarify what I meant, in that moment, you have just negotiated against yourself. You had the leverage, and you gave it away because you were afraid of the quiet. This chapter is about overcoming that fear. We are going to talk about the authority of silence. In high-stakes environments, negotiations, boardrooms, crisis management, silence is not an absence of communication, it is a weapon. It is a specific, tactical tool used to force the other side to reveal their hand. If you cannot sit in silence, you cannot lead a room. Communication creates results. But sometimes the most powerful communication is saying absolutely nothing. The psychology of the void. Why are we so afraid of silence? It is a biological instinct. In a social tribe, silence usually meant rejection. If the tribe went quiet, you were in trouble. So we are hardwired to keep the connection alive with noise. But in business, the dynamic is different. The person who is most comfortable with silence is the person who holds the most power. Think about a junior employee presenting to a CEO. The junior employee talks nonstop. The CEO sits back, listens, and maybe asks one question. Who has the authority? The quiet one. When you rush to fill the silence, you signal anxiety. You signal that you need their approval. When you embrace the silence, you signal that you are comfortable with your position. You don't need to over-explain because the value is self-evident. This is how you win clients. You stop chasing them with words and let them come to you in the silence. The case study, the 18-second wait. Let's look at a legendary example of this in action. There was a VP of sales negotiating an enterprise software contract worth $2 million. It was the final meeting. The stakes were massive. The client was a tough negotiator, a procurement director whose entire job was to grind vendors down on price. The VP put the contract on the table. He looked the director in the eye and said, "The price is $2 million. That includes implementation and 3 years of support. That is the final number." And then he stopped. He didn't say, "But we can look at it." He didn't say, "How does that sound?" He shut his mouth. He leaned back. The procurement director stared at him. The VP stared back. 1 second passed. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. In a meeting, 10 seconds of silence feels like 10 hours. The VP's internal team was sweating. They wanted to jump in. They wanted to offer a 5% discount just to break the tension. But the VP held the line. 15 seconds, 18 seconds. Finally, the procurement director sighed. He looked down at the paper and said, "Okay, if that's the number, we need to make sure the implementation starts on Monday." He signed. If the VP had spoken at the 10-second mark, if he had said, "We might be able to do $1.9 million, he would have lost $100,000 instantly. He would have signaled weakness. The silence forced the director to process the reality. They aren't moving. I have to decide. The first person to break the silence usually concedes ground. The VP knew that. He used the authority of silence to close the deal without giving away a single dime. Tactical framework, the anchor and the pause. How do you train yourself to do this? It is physically difficult. Your adrenaline will be spiking. You need a framework. I call this the anchor and the pause. This is used for stating terms, prices, or difficult news. Step 1. The anchor. State your point clearly, concisely, and firmly. Do not use or maybe. The project fee is $50,000. We cannot meet that deadline. I need you to redo this report. Step 2. The shutdown. Physically close your mouth. If you are on a video call, take your hands off the keyboard so you aren't tempted to type. Count to 4 in your head. 1, Mississippi. 2, Mississippi. 3, Mississippi. 4, Mississippi. Most people will break before you get to 4. Why this works? When you drop an anchor, a price, or a hard fact, the other person needs cognitive processing time. They need to calculate, feel the emotion, and formulate a response. If you keep talking, you interrupt their processing. You distract them. By pausing, you are giving them the space to realize they have to deal with the anchor. You are not being rude, you are being patient. Tactical framework. The processing pause. There is a second way to use silence. Defensive silence. This is for when you are asked a difficult question. A client asks, "Why is your competitor 20% cheaper?" Or a boss asks, "Why did we miss this target?" The instinct is to answer immediately to show you're sharp, but rushing an answer often leads to defensive, weak responses. Instead, use the processing pause. When they ask the question, wait 3 full seconds before you answer. Look thoughtful. This does 3 things. It calms your amygdala. It stops the fight or flight panic response. It signals confidence. Only confident people take their time to answer. Insecure people rush. And it adds weight to your answer. Because you waited, people assume your answer is more thoughtful and true. You guide the conversation by controlling the tempo. If they are talking fast and you answer slow, you slow the whole room down to your pace. The remote advantage, the mute button. For those of you working remotely, you have a superpower that negotiators in the 1980s didn't have, the mute button. In a heated Zoom negotiation or a difficult team call, use the mute button as a physical restraint. When you state your price, hit mute. This physically prevents you from muttering a softener like, "Does that make sense?" or "We can talk about it." You are literally silencing your insecurity. Keep your finger hovering over the unmute button, but do not click it until the other person has finished their entire thought. Often, on Zoom, there is a lag. You might think they are done, but they are just taking a breath. If you jump in, you cut them off. If you stay muted, they will keep talking. And, often, if you let them keep talking, they will talk themselves out of their own objection. AI makes you faster, but silence makes you stronger. Your next step. Here is your challenge for Chapter 6. I call it the Count to 4 challenge. In every conversation you have today, whether it is ordering coffee, talking to your spouse, or leading a meeting, do not answer any question immediately. When someone stops talking, count to 4 in your head. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then respond. You will feel the tension. It will feel awkward. But watch the other person. They might add more detail. They might clarify what they meant. They will look at you with more focus. You are training your nervous system to tolerate the void. Silence is the canvas upon which you paint your influence. If the canvas is cluttered with noise, the picture is a mess. Clean the canvas. Make your words count. Now we have stripped away the fluff. We have learned to listen. We have learned to pause. You have the structure. Now you need the substance. Logic makes people think, but it doesn't make them act. To drive action, you need to bypass the logical brain and hit the emotional brain. You don't need more data. You need a narrative. You mastered the silence, now you need the story.